Hi folks, welcome to We the People again. My name's Dave Gallus, I'm your host. Today's discussion, one-way discussion, is going to be, can you handle the truth? Now last week I talked about some of the Democratic speak that says we're in such danger with COVID-19, and I brought out some of the information that shows that they're not that concerned about it, but we're supposed to be, and what's the result? Well, our country's been shut down, our cities have been shut down, our county's been shut down, people are losing their businesses. Supposedly 60 to 70% of the businesses are going to never return. So, but that's only part of it. You may have noticed this week that we've had Senate hearings throughout the country. We've had them, the first one I think was in Gettysburg, PA, where the state Senate, the Republican Party in the state Senate, was questioning the electoral process. And Rudy Giuliani is leading that charge for the president, and he's questioning the absentee ballot information, the way it's processed, and he's also questioning the machines that process that information, the Dominion machines. And they're the same machines we have here in Doña County, and it's also the same process of absentee ballot recording that doesn't allow oversight. So, in the initial stage, that is. And then even afterwards, when people can review what's going on, it's after the fact where the damage can be done if there's corruption or mistakes made. So, like I said, the state hearings are going on in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Then you have Phoenix, Arizona, and you have Lansing, Michigan. Now, one of the key people, and I was watching all three of these, and one of the key people is a Colonel Waldron. Now, he's a cybersecurity expert for the Army, retired Army cybersecurity expert. And he's laying out the whole story about the Dominion and Smartmatic machines, which are the ones that we use. It's the same company that we use, and some of the same software here in Doña County. So if it's suspect there, it's suspect here. And I certainly suspect that our elections were unfair, were not truth, that we didn't get the truth in the elections, the numbers. So this Colonel Waldron talks about how Hugo Chavez actually contracted Dominion and Smartmatic. Now it's a little confusing as to which company started which software, but it's the Smartmatic Dominion machines and software combination that is the problem. It was designed so that you could manipulate votes. It worked for Hugo Chavez, and it worked for Maduro in Venezuela. So you got to understand, I remember when I used to vote back in New Jersey, you would vote in your particular precinct. You would go to a place local to your home. The people would have these open books, and you would see your name and your signature, your address, and I don't know if there was other vital information there, but then you had to show identification. You also had to sign your name, which could be compared directly to your signature on that book. That's the voter's logbook, I guess it's called. So you had a real good way, and you showed ID, so it was no doubt that that was you. It's not a dead person, it's not an illegal, it's not somebody that voted multiple times. Once you sign that register, that's it. You're recorded as having voted. Well, with these machines we have now, and I was a presiding judge twice, a judge of elections once, worked the polls numerous times. So you have an electronic machine that brings up a database. When a person comes in, you don't even have to have an identification. As a matter of fact, some people don't even want the identification. They just say, what's your last name? They key in the first three letters of your last name. Then they key in the first three letters of your first name, and a data file comes up. Then the person has to identify what year they were born. And actually, in the election code, you are supposed to verbally say out loud, the person that's coming in to vote has to verbally say out loud their name and their year of birth. And that should be able for everybody to hear it. That rarely, if ever, goes on. That's part of the election process. So this is when you come in as a voter on election day or early voting. Then, after that, you have a pre-printed ballot that comes out. Now, here in New Mexico, we have voting convenience centers, which on the one hand is a very good thing in that people can go to maybe one of 40 locations and they can vote, even though they live outside that area where they're voting. It's a different precinct where they're actually going to the voting polls. But it's a bad thing in that years ago, the people that were actually working those polls lived in that precinct and could identify a lot of the people that were coming in to vote. Say, hey, Joe, how you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm glad to see you're voting. They know who the person is. Now, with the population expanding like it is, that's a hard thing to do. But it does take away some of that security that would be automatically involved when neighbors are greeting neighbors. And you also feel as though that your neighbor is involved in the election process, which is a good thing. So anyway, so nowadays you go in, you give the person your name. After they verify that this is who you say you are. And I have doubts about whether or not that's the truth, because I've heard of people that actually come in and they're reading off of their smartphone. What's your name? Joe Brown. What's your date of birth? Where do you live? 176. Now, do you really think that's a viable voter? I mean, he could have mental problems, but I don't think so. I think there's corruption. And there's affidavits that state this. And when people make an affidavit, and I'll talk about that later, they're actually swearing under the affidavit, which is notarized, that this is true of what they've witnessed, under perjury. And I think it's at least a misdemeanor, if not a felony. So these people want to come forward and tell the truth. Okay, let me back up a little bit. So you have now given your information. Hopefully it's honest information. A ballot is printed out that is specific to where you live. You'll have certain people to vote for, judges, senatorial districts, House districts in the state, federal districts, president, vice president. So this ballot is printed out specifically for you. Now you're supposed to go into a booth and you're supposed to mark with a marker your choices, and then you go to a thing called a tabulating machine. It's a big black electronic machine that you put your ballot into. And that records what your ballot says and who you voted for, but I also believe that it also stores an image of that ballot. Now, there is no way to link you to that ballot, and that's a good thing because it's secrecy, so you don't get beat up by people from another party if they find that, oh, you shouldn't have voted that way, you voted for the wrong person. So your ballot is now in the machine, and if you hear the ding, it says, okay, your ballot's been registered. But with our machines, and I believe this is true, and I know it's true in the states of Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Michigan, that these Dominion machines, which is the same maker of the machines that we have, you are able to put in zip drives. You are able to connect to the internet when the election officials say, no, there's no connection to the internet. You have 15 cables coming out of that going somewhere. And that's where they get the real-time data on how the votes are actually being tabulated. So there is a connection to the internet. And when you connect to the internet, you have the possibility of hackers getting involved and messing with votes. And like I said, these Dominion machines were made to adjust vote totals. And there's another thing, too, that really struck me. They tally votes by a fraction, in fractions. So a 1.0 would be one vote. But if you have a fractional component of that, why would you have a fraction? One vote, one person, that's it. No. Fractional means that those machines can adjust up or down what the weight of the vote is. So say Joe Biden got 0.7 of a vote and Donald Trump got 1.3. It still totals, if you had two votes, one could be weighted heavier, one could be weighted lighter, so that the number will still come out the same. But, okay, maybe it's Joe Biden would get a 0.3% and Donald Trump will get a 0.7%, or vice versa. You still have only one vote, but they've weighted it. They've actually broken down the vote fractionally so that they can adjust up or down who they want to win. This was programmed into these machines intentionally for Venezuela and many, many states. But not all states agreed to these machines because they've done a study to find out how safe these machines are. Texas refused these machines 3 times in a row. Well, I don't know if it was in a row, but 3 times Texas refused to take these machines. Why did New Mexico accept Dominion machines? You got to wonder about that. So you have a massive data input that can be placed in a thumb drive or a zip drive. You know how much information a zip drive can handle. They can plug in numbers that they're not even real ballots. They're just a number. When you get electronically and you move away from the paper and the person-to-person communication in old-time voting, that's where the trouble can be. And so I'm saying that it's very possible that the Dominion machines were compromised in these 3 states that they're having Senate hearings on, as well as New Mexico. So, and also, you want to go to, like I said, there's this Colonel Waldron, cybersecurity expert, that breaks down how the Dominion machine can be compromised, and I'm sure is compromised, and used for fraudulent means. So, but you also have people that are witnesses, civilians, that are witnesses and stepping forth, writing their affidavits, swearing under oath, having it notarized, and they would be guilty of perjury if what they said was a lie. And they could do jail time. These are civilian people that are doing it. There was one lady that, there's different sites that you can go to that will bring this information out. C-SPAN has it, YouTube has it. Go on and look at the Senate hearings on voter fraud in Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And you will actually see the video of these people testifying. The one Indian woman, like a Pakistani Indian lady, she was working as, I don't know if she was a challenger. I think she was a challenger, and she was a Republican challenger, but she didn't have a name tag on. So they assumed by her color that she was a Democrat. So they treated her very nicely. But then later on, when her badge showed that she was a Republican challenger, they were saying, you're on the wrong side. You shouldn't be doing that. She was actually being intimidated. She was called out for many nasty words, and it was just unbelievable how she was treated and how she saw the difference in the treatment when she was a challenger for the Republicans or a challenger for independents. So she witnessed many violations of, what would you say, human decency, calling people foul names, threatening their families, their children, their homes. It's just unreal what you will see in these hearings, and what you'll hear is the truth, because these people have no reason to perjure themselves. So, and you'll also see in the hearings too, you'll see the bias on both sides, because you'll have Republican and Democrat senators that will be asking questions of these witnesses. There's one girl, it's really funny, she's a young blonde woman that has 2 children, and she's got this big hairdo. She's hard to miss, but she reminds me of an old telephone operator with the way she talks. It's a little nasal, but she's very credible. And what she was hired as a temp for Dominion as a IT specialist. In case there was a problem, she could fix the problem. So she knew exactly how things were supposed to happen. One of the things she says is that 2 to 3 times an hour, a machine would jam. These are high-speed machines. Now, they're not like the regular, I don't believe they're like the regular voting day machines where you put the ballot in and you hear the ding and you move on, the next person comes in. These machines will take multiple ballots or very fast feeding of ballots to go through, because they're counting the absentee ballots. And to me, that is where the problem is, the absentee ballots, because that tremendous numbers of absentee ballots were used in this election, this 2020 general election. So this woman's testifying that when you have a ballot that is jammed in the machine, you are supposed to take that ballot out, put it on top of a pile that has, say, 24 or so ballots before that did pass through the machine, that were stacked after it's not like our machines that takes the ballots and drops it down into a container. This one actually stores it on the top like a printer. But when you get that jammed one, you put it on top, then you take this batch and you discard, there's a button you push, and it discards all those 25 ballots, the one that was jammed, the 24 before it. Well, what people weren't doing they were not discarding. So all those ballots were counted, and they resent them again, so they were counted twice. I'll be right back after a short message, and we'll get back into the voting irregularities nationally and domestically. See you in a minute.
Here, we'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here.
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
They've stormed beaches and freed countries. They've raised our flag and our hope. They've been called leathernecks. They've been called devil dogs. But above all, they're called Marines.
Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm Dave Gallus, your host, and today's show is Can You Handle the Truth? Now, we're talking about voting irregularities nationally, which is going on right now. They have Senate hearings in Pennsylvania, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Phoenix, Arizona, and Lansing, Michigan. And what is going on is the people are being brought forward with written affidavits that they submit to the state senators, and they're explaining what they saw that was irregular in the voting that went on in their respective states and their respective precincts. So these people are enraged that the voting process to them is not fair. So they're questioning the system, and Rudy Giuliani is representing the president, and I forget the lady's name that was also working with Rudy, but they're actually questioning the validity of the vote for president, but it also goes for down ballot people too. And down ballot are the people underneath, like senators, congressmen, on down to, county level and things like that. So they're questioning because they are enraged as to how they were treated and what was going on. So at the break, I was explaining how the one girl that's one of the people that are testifying, she was hired as an IT specialist for the Dominion company. So if anything malfunctioned on the machine, she could step in. Well, she saw irregularities and thought, no, this is not right. One of the things she said was that ballots would be placed in multiple times, the same ballots, and they weren't working on the machines properly. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with the fact that the people were not trained properly. The poll workers, even the presiding judges and the judges of elections, they were not savvy as to what the laws are. I'm learning a whole lot about election law in Doñana County, and I'm finding that there's discrepancies that have been overlooked, that have been bypassed, that have been abused, and so I'm learning more and more about the election process. It's so important that we learn, because if we don't know, we can't make a reasonable complaint, and we don't know. I was running for state senator in District 37 against Bill Souls. I might have won. I don't know, because we're not getting a fair vote here. When I say that, the absentee ballot process, which was generated by the COVID-19, and that's another issue, is the COVID-19 as deadly as they say it is, and it is deadly for some people, granted, no doubt about it. But people with underlying medical issues, they're the ones that should be protected. They're the ones that should stay home, isolate. They're the ones that should wear masks if they have to go out in public. They should keep the social distance for their own health. Do you really think that people can't think for themselves? I would think so. If I was compromised, I'd protect myself. I do that now. So, it's a matter of respect. Do you respect people enough to make the right decision? You should, unless you have an ulterior motive. My idea is the ulterior motive is to crash the economy, destroy businesses, to make it look bad for the incumbent president and the incumbent party and the president in the White House, the Republican Party. But what are they doing in the process? They're destroying the businesses. In Doñana County, I think 60 to 70% of businesses will never recover. So, They used the COVID as a reason to, this is our state legislatures, Ivy Soto, I think, put this bill in, SB 4, under the idea that they were going to protect the election officials as well as the poll workers. Well, there are no poll workers that I know of. They've excluded them. In the past, you would have to have, it's called the Absentee Election Board, and you would have this convened when the absentee ballots come in. They're in 2 envelopes. One is an inner envelope with the ballot inside. The other envelope is an outer secrecy envelope with a tab on it. When you pull back the tab, it reveals the person's signature and year of birth. Signature and last 4 digits of the Social Security number. That should only be witnessed by the presiding judge, 2 judge of elections, and they are supposed to determine whether it's a valid ballot or not. Well, this new bill that Ivy Soto put through with sponsors, all Democratic sponsors, they put this through to say that the county clerk is the one that removes the label. Well, if the county clerk is corrupt, and I believe the county clerk in the office is corrupt, one person is going to identify that. They'll open the secrecy label and look at the register that says the person's name, the registered voter, name, Social Security, last 4 of the Social Security number, and they verify that. If they don't have the signature and the last 4 Social Security number right, it should be discarded. It should not be allowed to be in the regular voting. It should not be acceptable. So, well, what's to say that the county clerk might pencil in the 4-digit Social Security number or scribble something that looks like a signature? Who's to say? If there's no oversight, there's no checking. We're supposed to have fair and honest elections, but if people don't believe that's happening, why even vote? Now, this could be the reason why the Democratic Party wants to do this, so that Republicans say, what the heck, what's the difference? No, we have to fight for the truth and honesty. Whether Biden wins or whether Trump wins, that's not that important compared to the integrity of our election system. So I've witnessed personally where Republicans are not used when they could be used for poll workers, for judges of elections, for clerks. And I had such a hard time becoming a judge of election for early elections because you have to be an employee of the county. Man, you talk about jumping through hoops to try and get the okay. I was a Philadelphia policeman for 25 years. That's easy enough to check. I worked for the post office for 13 years. I gave them all this information, and I am sure that what they were doing was try to dissuade me from becoming an election official. Well, I stuck it out. I hung in there. I made complaints. I argued with them. Finally, I'm an employee of the county now, so I can go back and do that. Now, I couldn't this last election because I was running for office, but they make it so difficult for Republicans to be part of the election system. It is definitely and obvious to me that this is corruption. But getting back to the absentee ballot, so now the county clerk can open that secrecy label, put in what she wants. If she's corrupt, and I believe she is, she can put in that information and count that accepted, and then the ballot can go through. But you don't know if that's a real ballot. You don't know if it's a blank ballot. You don't know if it's a dead person. You don't know how many times that ballot has been run through the machine. Well, at that point, I should back up. At that point, the ballot is now accepted. But after that, then judges of elections and presiding judges can look it over to see if it's right. Well, by then, the damage is done. There was no oversight in the initial stage, where it should be. So to me, every absentee ballot should be discarded because there was no oversight. So this law, under the idea that it was to protect people, actually put a lot of doubt in the electoral process that we have. And there's nothing, to me, more important than having fair and honest elections. So this just goes right along with, do you trust the information you're getting? And if you're watching CNN and MSNBC and the rag newspapers, you are getting what they want to feed you. You're not getting the truth. But if you have the courage to look at the truth, go to One American News Network, OANN, and go to Newsmax. Now, my producer can put up some photos of people that disregard the COVID-19 process. Could we get full screen, Chris? This is Nancy Pelosi in the hairdressers. As you see, she's in close proximity to people, moving around without a mask on. Okay? So now you have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Now, they don't look 6 feet apart, and there's no mask there. And then you have Bill Clinton, who's at John Lewis's funeral, along with other folks, other dignitaries, no mask. Look how close they're sitting. They're shoulder to shoulder. And then the last one we have is Gavin Newsom. He's caught out having dinner with his family or friends or whatever, no mask. So my question is, if it was so dangerous, this COVID is so dangerous and deadly, why would these people be out in public without a mask? Unless they know that it's a hoax. They know that there's very few people that die from COVID. They know that the people that do die from COVID were probably going to die soon enough anyway. Now, that's a harsh thing to say, but they had underlying medical conditions, and these are the people you need to protect. They know that. They're selling you this lie. So you keep watching the news media that propagandizes this COVID-19 without telling you the truth. They'll tell you, oh, we've got so many more people that are infected. Well, you'll notice the infection rate's going to go up now. And you know why? My idea is that they're testing, but you're including people with the common cold or flu symptoms and saying it's all COVID. So, and as we're coming into winter, of course, the flu season goes up, the colds increase, your nose is running, you have obvious symptoms. So look, folks, you got to think for yourselves. And if you can handle the truth will set you free. Very famous Bible quote. Jesus said that. I think he did. Anyway, so the whole idea is be a critical thinker, question what's going on, and I would say please watch those hearings in Lancaster, PA, Phoenix, Arizona, and Lansing, Michigan. You're going to get a wealth of knowledge on election fraud and what the possibilities are. So we should just stop the elections right now until we can get a forensic test on these machines. Okay? All right, folks. Next week should be another blockbuster show. I don't know what it's going to be about, but it's probably going to be about COVID or election fraud. So I'll see you next week. We the people. Dave Gallus. See you later.